Hello everybody and welcome to the Fintech Times. We are here at Sibos 2022 in Europe, in Amsterdam, and today I'm joined by Stuart Tarmy of Aerospike. Stuart, how are you?
I'm terrific, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. What do you think of Sibos so far, day one?
Oh, it's been
Yesterday.
terrific. Been terrific. I got to meet a lot of people I wouldn't have met otherwise.
Yeah.
The layout has been wonderful.
Yes, you flew from New York to be here, right?
I did. I flew in late this weekend to get here from New York City.
Fantastic. But it's not your first time in Amsterdam, no?
I've been here before, but not in a number of years. So it's great to be back.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Yeah, well, there's so many people here and a lot to discuss. With a lot of very interesting people, and I'm very happy to be in this conversation with you today.
Okay, thank you.
But before we get on to that conversation, we better give our viewers a little bit of an insight into who you are, what your position is, and also what does Aerospike hope to achieve. So if you could just tell us a bit about that, please.
Sure. So my name is Stuart Tarmy. I'm the Global Director of Financial Services Industry Solutions at Aerospike. We're a real-time data platform. We're known for a number of things. We're known for our low latency, highly scalable database, always on, and low total cost of ownership. So we have premier clients like a PayPal, as an example, who depend on us, where being able to process and manage large amounts of data in real time is critical.
Fantastic. Well, we're very pleased to have your company with us today. In terms of Sibos specifically, we're on day 2 now, but yesterday you hosted a spotlight on the use of AI within financial services. Can you tell us a bit about what you were discussing in the session?
Sure. There were a couple, first it was a full audience. There was standing room only, so that was great to see. And I think it reflects how important AI is in the financial service world and people recognizing that. So some of the themes that came out is first, or one, is the adoption of AI. People are more readily adopting it, more easily understanding it, and finding more and more use cases. 2 is another thing that we discussed was how the better companies, or I'll say the best performing companies, are adapting AI faster into areas. And so the winners are continuing to win, and unfortunately, if you're not keeping up, the laggards are losing. Yes. We talked about the evolution of AI and the evolution of databases and why the ability to scale and handle more and more data in real time is imperative. At Aerospike, we call that a right now experience. You want data to be, some data can be batched, it's fine. Say processing a checking account, perhaps. But a lot of things, because everything is so mobile driven now, people want that real-time experience, and we see that accelerating. So we talked a lot about those themes, and then got into some detail on them.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, those are some themes that we're going to touch upon in our discussion today. But yeah, you've definitely done well to emphasize the importance of AI and the importance of adopting AI as well, in the fact that you're either going to fall behind or fly ahead, and it's sort of no in between. So I think it would serve as a great warning to those who are yet to adopt it, of its benefits. And speaking of its benefits, we see AI, especially in Aerospike's case, being deployed to fight fraud, to implement cybersecurity measures. Is the technology our best tool to fight against rising cases of fraud or cybersecurity? And importantly, are there any other forms of technology that perhaps might not necessarily be instantly coming to mind, but are there any forms of technology that can work with AI, in tandem with AI, to fight cybercrime?
Sure. So we're seeing more and more advancements in AI and more adoption of them. So if you think about AI and fraud, many of the systems start out as rule-based systems, and you could build very complex rule-based systems. I mean, I've seen rule-based systems that had, say, 10,000 rules, so they're very, very complex. But they had issues. They were always one step behind the fraudster. It took a while to recognize it, so people moved to AI systems. And so you talked about, is it the best and is it going? The systems are getting more complex, the AI systems, as people can move to neural nets and deep learning systems. It is the best, and I'll talk about some other things you can do. But with the volume of transactions, you can't do it manually. So just as an example, a company like PayPal will process about $1 trillion a year in payments over approximately 300 billion or more transactions. So it's billions, 300 billion low dollar value transactions. And you want those to happen in real time. In real time, we're talking about, say, 80 milliseconds, which is faster than the eye blinks.
Yeah.
So there's no way you could go through 300 billion transactions that fast.
Yeah.
So it needs to be automated. There are other techniques people are using. I mean, AI is sort of a catch-all, right? It captures a lot of algorithms and techniques. But we're seeing firms that are marrying with that, and it uses AI, but things, for instance, like behavioral analytics. Yeah. So, which I think is really interesting. So an example of behavioral analytics is, if I have a pure AI system, I may look at things like, who is making the payment? How much is the payment? Does this payment look similar to other payments you've done? Are you in the same or similar location you've been in the past? If I look at people who look like you, meaning your age, your demographic, whatever, what's their propensity to create fraud? Because the theory is if people who look like you do higher fraud, you may do higher fraud too. Yeah. So that we capture pretty well, right? Another area that's getting a lot of attention is what they call behavioral analytics. And behavioral analytics is actually trying to register your behavior. So an example might be, if I'm entering in a PIN number into the phone, right? I enter my PIN, and say my PIN is 12345. Without behavioral analytics, all I would see is 12345. With behavioral, I would actually measure the cadence of it. Does the person do it 12345, or they do do it slowly, right? Yeah. And I can tell, is it that person or not, by does it look like it's mimicking what this person ordinarily does? They're getting very sophisticated too, because what they're finding is that your behavior can vary, say, in the morning when you wake up versus in the evening when you're eating dinner and you're not asleep, but it's still you. So they're trying to build these nuances into the system to truly identify it's you like a person could. Yes. And so that's becoming a bigger thing also. That will depend on extremely fast processing also.
It's really fascinating, all these processes that are coming in, and being able to really know your consumer, I think is so important in terms of fighting fraud. AI itself, as outlined in your spotlight, has come so far within the industry, and it's really become a real cornerstone of a lot of the most successful companies. I'm just wondering, with something that doesn't really appear to have a ceiling, like AI, for example, where do you see the next evolutionary stage of the technology being? And more importantly, is there ever a point where enough is going to be enough?
Well, you mean in terms of data? So in terms of data, I mean, everyone always says the more data, the better, right? And in general, as a rule of thumb, that's true. What people have found is that there is diminishing returns. So as an example, PayPal has published some papers that said they will look at 1 to 10 million data points, up to 20 million even sometimes, to fight fraud. They found if they go beyond that and they add even more data, it's just not worth it. The differences don't mean it. So I think part of the trick with AI is you want to have as much data as you need, but no more, so you do it fast. Because a lot of the data you can bring in is correlated. And so just to bring in more data that's already correlated may not help you. So you want to do it intelligently. But you're right, in general, the more data you have, you can at least use that to train the models. The model itself in training will tell you which data is important or not. So maybe you'll discard some data. But it'll keep increasing. Yeah,
definitely. In terms of data application within the financial industry, I mean, what's the trajectory on that? We've seen data become of huge importance to financial firms. What do you see as the trends in the application of data?
Yeah, so the data is only increasing. I mean, it depends if you're talking about, say, customer 360 personalization or risk compliance. But in general, there's a couple sources of data, right? There's your internal data. So if, say, I'm on a risk application, I'll know your information of what your transactions have been, your account information, your mobile IP address, your bank account, and so I can bring all that in. But as, or more importantly, is going to be third-party data. So I'm going to bring in a lot of data for where you shop, where you've lived, just all sorts of data out there. I mean, one interesting thing to me you see out there as an example of just bringing more data is with the credit bureaus. So there's commercials, at least in the United States, on raise your credit score, pay a certain amount of money to one of the credit agencies, and instantly you'll get your credit score done.
Yeah.
The way they do that is they're bringing in some third-party data that wasn't previously part of your algorithm, and then charging you for it. And it seems sort of silly. The data they're actually bringing in is, do you pay your Netflix on time?
Yes.
Right? Do you pay your HBO Max on time? But do you pay your rent on time? Right? Because that was never captured. It was always your mortgage payments, because you owned, not as a renter.
Yeah.
So people are now trying to collect that data. One interesting thing I'm seeing is that we do a lot of work in India with the large Indian banks, the large Indian telecom companies. So our largest client, I believe, is one of the large mobile phone companies in India that has, I think, about 300 million people on the platform, and it's going to scale to about 600 million people. Huge numbers, right? It can happen because India has 1.4 billion people.
Yeah.
But what happens in India, and it's also in the United States, more in India, is there's a huge amount of unbanked people that just can't, lower income people who can't afford bank accounts. So there's a big burden on them. They have to take out high interest loans. They do things through payday loans. And so one of the things some of the banks want to do is capture that business. But how do I evaluate you if you don't have a bank, you've never had a banking relationship? So one of the things they're looking to do is to bring in third-party data that might give indications of whether you're a good risk or not. So an example indications might be as simple as is this person married and have children? Because they've found statistically people who have the responsibility of a spouse and kids are more responsible. So you can start to bring in data like that, and then help these people, become as an entry point into, say, the financial system.
Definitely, and especially in emerging markets like India, for example, as you've emphasized. In terms of Aerospike more specifically, I mean, what is the future trajectory of your company?
So we're a high growth Silicon Valley based company. We grew, I think, last year a little more than 40%. The financial service business line grew 70% plus. So we're growing very quickly, and the reason is severalfold. One is, I think, we have the premier product, and we've been, we have the client base to show that. Second is some of it's the wins that are back. There's more and more emphasis on real time. People want it now, or things. So as that continues, and we don't see that leaving, we become a preferred choice. So that's a nice spot to be in.
Fantastic. And final question, in terms of your attendance at Sibos, obviously you've hosted the spotlight yesterday. I mean, what else are you looking to get out of your attendance here?
Yeah, so the Sibos conference has been terrific. So a few things. One, it was great to present, and I presented with some colleagues from Bank of New York Mellon and Accenture. So it was great to see that. A number of people came up to me after the presentation to meet, so that was great to see.
Fantastic.
I've also been able to reconnect with people I haven't not seen in a few years. So that's been wonderful, and that's generating some rekindling some relationships, and actually going to, I think, generate some opportunities for us. And then I'm able to meet and people are scheduling meetings with me of companies I have not done work with before to develop a relationship. So it's been very, very packed and a terrific day.
Very busy indeed.
Very busy.
Well, it's been great to speak to you, Stuart Tarmy of Aerospike. What an insightful conversation, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your time at Sibos.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.